Right. Hey everyone, I'm Klloo. So, welcome to something a little bit different, right? So I'd love your feedback. But basically, when I go through a whole bunch of list of cards, right, trying to figure out, what's a fun interaction, what could I potentially combo here or there, I often come across cards where I look at them and I go, damn, this is missing one or two things to make it A, playable, or B, actually fun, unique interaction that you could try to use for X combo. So what I thought we'd start doing, right, is basically just pick out one of these cards. So for instance, today we're going to start with Knick, Knack, Bric-a-brac, a card that I do personally really, really like. It is just really, really awfully statted, right, compared to what it can do. So yeah, we'll pull up a card, we'll talk about, discuss it, and then we'll tweak it a little bit and see if we can sort of find that sweet spot of where we'd like the card to actually be, and maybe discuss, possible retrains in the future. So starting off with Knick, Knack, Bric-a-brac, right? It's a 3-cost red with 2 blocks. So far, the stats aren't really going for it, right? As an additional cost to play Knick, Knack, Bric-a-brac, you may destroy any number of copper, silver, and or gold you control. Search your deck for a card with amulet, potion, or talisman in its name, put it into the arena, then shuffle. For each 4 copper, or 2 silver, or 1 gold that you destroy for the additional cost of this card, you may repeat this process. So in base, right, you're paying 3 to search out of your deck either an amulet, potion, or talisman. Now that doesn't seem that awful, right? But then you start thinking about what you're actually getting out of this, and part of the problem right now is definitely that the items that we can fetch out are not that significant, right? So if you think about what you're getting out of, say, an energy potion or a time snap potion, they're the prime examples, right? Because they're the items that have actually seen play. And when it comes to Knick, Knack, Bric-a-brac, sure, you're searching for it, but you're pouring 3 into it. You're taking 1 slot out of your deck for a 2-block card, right? Which is already pretty awful. Yeah. And then all just for that minor payoff of a time snap potion or an energy potion, let alone then if you start going into, the other amulets, the talismans that, in all honesty, and I'm pretty sure we're all aware of this, right? We're awfully, awfully statted in terms of effect, right? From Everfest. It's clear that LSS thought giving items go again would be the big linchpin to making them, half decent, but yeah, no, and I could probably do a whole ton of videos on each of them, right? But nonetheless, so what does Knick, Knack, Bric-a-brac need? Well, in its original state, as the card is currently, what we're desperately missing, right, is more ways to generate copper, silver, or gold. So at current, right, copper is very much a warrior-esque thing, right? It's tied to a few of their different cards, but it's also, in a sense, it seems to be sort of being pushed out of the game, right? It seems like copper doesn't really have a place. Silver has found its place among assassin, right? It's their main mechanic. Through contract, you get silver. With silver, you then buy back your equipment pieces. So that's cool, right? And then gold. Gold is very tricky for LSS because obviously it has some of the best draw economics, right? If you can build up a nice stockpile of gold. So then to tie it into useful effects becomes a bit of an issue, right? Hence why cash in had to go. So, if there were more easier ways to generate gold, the question then sort of becomes, well, how many instances or how many results of Knick, Knack, Bric-a-brac would you have to get in order to make the card, again, decent, right? So just playing it gets you 1 item. For every gold that you then have, gets you another. So if you were getting 3 items out of this, would that be decent? The answer is no. The answer is still pretty much no, because a lot of the talismans don't synergize well with one another. There's only a few that you can really stack up and trigger all together. And then when, again, it comes down to potions, since you are avoiding the go again necessity and you're able to put a bunch of them in play in one turn, that does seem lucrative. But again, it's just not quite there because of what you're sacrificing to play Knick, Knack, Bric-a-brac. So the first version of the card that I sort of want to present is going to be this very, very minor change, right? So all I've added is go again to the card, and I've upped it from 2-block to 3-block, right? Because it does seem like we're sort of edging towards a higher base average for block, right? It's a lot more impactful that you have 3 or greater cards in your deck. So I do think Knick, Knack, Bric-a-brac kind of deserves at least 3-block. Again, considering its effect is not as powerful as it seems. And then giving it go again is monumentous, right? Because now what this means is you're paying 3 to get a time snap potion instantly, right? Which means you're paying 3 for an action point. And that's already poor value. But now it could see play in some heroes because it's on demand, right? So if you think about heroes who lack action points economics, well, they have cards like Captain's Call, Lead the Charge, and some other ways to gain go again. And in all honesty, I can guarantee you that it would not cost them 3 resources. So I think this version of Knick, Knack, Bric-a-brac is still well statted given the current state of, again, getting copper, getting silver, getting gold. Now, it does become a bit kind of busted when you start looking at it in, say, Assassin or to some extent Warrior. Again, Warrior having to generate instances of 4 copper at a time. Yes, they can stack up copper, but that is a lot of copper. I find the 2 silver ratio that Assassin is going on, again, because it's built into their equipment, is a bit fairer, right? But yeah, imagine if through this you were, say, getting 2, right? You're getting an energy potion and time snap potion. So now you're paying 1 to get an action point, right? That is fairly decent. Plus, you're thinning out 3 cards from your deck. So from a combo standpoint, that is nicer, right? To cut cards. From a normal game perspective, that is an additional cost, right? Because losing cards from your deck in a game like Flesh and Blood, where you're trying to make every card mana, does then become relevant. So even with Go Again, even with 3 block, I still kind of feel that Knick, Knack, Bric-a-brac is not that powerful, right? Again, until we get a high quality of amulets, potions, and talismans, it is even in this state, I think, a little still underwhelming, but this is where I'd like it to be at nonetheless, right? At the bare minimum, have Go Again, have that 3 block, so you can actually, use it in a bit more of a combo sense, use it as a nice fetching card, right? Because there's not a whole lot of search in Flesh and Blood. And a fun tidbit, right? If you go to Fabric and you type in search in the search bar, right, and you find all the other cards across, all the different classes that can actually search X thing out, you'll find that the majority of them actually do have 3 blocks. So yeah, I still find it kind of curious why Knick, Knack, Bric-a-brac was launched with 2 block. But after that, we can get to a bit more of a questionable variant, right? So I've done away with the block, I've done away with the cost, and it is now a generic instant. And here, I think the card becomes average. I think it becomes decent. In certain classes, yes, it becomes a little bit problematic, right? Having this as Wizard, being able to fetch an energy potion, being able to fetch a time snap potion, that becomes a bit dangerous, right? But across the board, I feel like this is still a little bit nicer, right? You lose the block capability of it in your deck, so taking instants that, again, don't have that alternative to prevent damage is I think, a decent counterbalance, right, to the card in this state. So it's still the exact same clause, right? You still have to pay additional copper, silver / gold if you want more instances, but it's now a 0 instant proc, find an item. And that, to me, is a lot better mechanically of a card, right? Because in taking this, you're taking this and you're taking most likely one other card. And you're sort of gambling on the fact that this gets you the fetch, right? You're increasing your odds to draw X item and then to utilize X item. But the downside of that is you now have 2 cards in your deck that don't block, right? So that's already detrimental. You then also have a card that is not pitch value, right? It is awful pitch value. If you get stuck with it, right? If you run out of items, then Knick, Knack, Bric-a-brac is just this dead in the water card. So again, as powerful as this might seem, I still feel there is a great deal of disadvantage to taking it, that it is still balanced, right? And that's sort of saying something. If the card we started with, right, was 3 cost, 2 block, and didn't have Go Again, to now be a 0 cost instant that fetches you at the very least, right, 1 amulet, potion, or talisman, and it still doesn't seem all that strong to me. And I could be wrong, right? And do correct me if you think otherwise. But yeah, I mean, this is probably where we could see Knick, Knack, Bric-a-brac be reprinted or retrained currently, and it would do kind of fine, right? But altogether, what I would really like to see is a card more so like this, right? So I'm still using Knick, Knack, Bric-a-brac, but basically I just want some sort of item fetch, right? I want us to lean a bit more into items across the board, not just be a mechanologist thing. I think the amulets and the potions that do exist are interesting. Granted, I would very much like to see a few retrains of the amulets. Some of their conditions are a bit too hefty in my opinion, but nonetheless we have Knick, Knack, Bric-a-brac, 2x, right? Search your deck for a card with amulet, potion, or talisman in its name, put it into the arena, then shuffle. Repeat this process X more times. So I've taken away the instant clause. It's back to being a generic action. It now has 2 block, but I think its effect is significantly better to cover the fact that it's 2 block, right? So if you're pitching 2 into this, you get to search 1 item, you pitch 4, you get to search 2 items, and so forth and so on. I think that is significantly better, right? Because in terms of say, setting up, this can be, you waste your hand and then you go into a weapon swing, right? And you've set up items for a following turn to try and regain the tempo that you've lost in playing this. I think this is, in all honesty, a decent version of X fetch item card that we might end up seeing in the game, right? Again, sticking with the hefty resource cost, but that resource cost is now a little bit easier and manageable for every class, as a generic probably should. Because again, identity-wise, it does seem like copper is becoming a warrior thing, or has always been a warrior thing, and then silver has definitely become an assassin thing, and then gold is very much up in the air because it has that draw constraint tied to it. So, if they made a gold-centric hero like, say, merchants, right, what would come of that? How do they balance the draw potential of that? So, yeah, I would very much like to see a card like this, obviously not Knick, Knack, Bric-a-brac, but some sort of item fetch mechanic, because items do lend themselves to combo, and I love myself some combo, right? So again, the dangerous territory to sort of look out for is, of course, Wizard, right? Anytime you have a card like this for Wizard, where they can stack up the board and then utilize all these extra things going into whatever their pop-up turn is always kind of crazy, but it would also, make it easier to use some of those fancy amulet effects and even just like potions of strength or luck or these different mechanics that could help you actually see some of the unique interactions that Flesh and Blood is kind of built, right? Rather than just what is statted correctly and efficiently towards, the strategic game of Flesh and Blood. So yeah, that's my ideas and basically the concept of this series going forward, right? We'll pick out one card, and I would love suggestions, right? What card do you feel is kind of undervalued or mechanically just not quite good enough, but interesting and has potential, right? That, maybe again needs something as simple as a go again, right? Or just a slight tweak to its cost balancing or its stats to then make it actually a half decent card that could have, fun and interesting interactions. Because again, using this to set up a lot of the combos that we go through would be fantastic, because I love making use of, say, Amulets of Assertiveness, right? In Thrive Jarl, in Thrive Briar, Thrive Florian, right? I'd love to make use of strength pots, because that's so much potential there with Thrive, right? It would be, 6 on board plus 9, right? So a plus 15 just through the setup. And that would be kind of cool, right? To actually utilize in games, but there is no way in hell that I'm taking base Knick, Knack, Bric-a-brac, because, yeah, I'm not paying 3 for an item and ending my turn. No. Anyway, hope you enjoyed, right? Let me know your thoughts. And yeah, card suggestions or, tweaks to existing cards. Love to see it all. Hope you enjoyed. See ya.